was a good timing.
Actually, the total process was not long. It was 6 to 8 months by the time from the time I applied to the time I was taking off to go to Morocco.
We were very flexible about where we would go. We said we'd go any place, with under our breath saying, I don't know if we really want to go to Central Europe or the newly independent states, but maybe they won't ask us to go there. We'll go anywhere, we said. And Liz Lee was her name, she came up with a nomination to Community Development in Latin America, Inter-America. Oh, we were so excited. Yeah. That's not where we ended up going, but she found a program for us, and we were good to go. We were flying high.
I put down Asia as my number 1. Europe, I think, was number 2, whatever it was. I got a call from the placement office that said, this person said, well, I realize that you put Asia down. However, we really need business development volunteers in Eastern Europe. Would you consider that? I said, absolutely. I would not give that up for anything. I hadn't even thought of it.
They called after I had been through, partway through the application process, they called and they said, we would like you to go. We have a real need for water engineers in Morocco. And I said, well, that's fine. Give me a couple hours and I'll get back to you with that. I ran down to the library and got a book, took a look at a couple of maps on Morocco. And I found out that they had all the criteria that I wanted in the Peace Corps was there for me in Morocco. It was a whole different religion, the different culture accordingly. They did not speak English. If they spoke any first world language, it would have been French. And so therefore, and their basic language was Arabic. So there was a whole new world to be had, and that's exactly what I wanted.
Nothing was really said until I received my invitation, which was in April of 1996. And when I opened up the envelope and I looked at that and went, oh my God, Ukraine, where is that? Let's get the map out. And that's when I knew, but I knew that I was going to be leaving in June. I knew I was going to be leaving for Eastern Europe, but I did not know which country.
We were considered for several different areas, and programs fell through for one reason or another for us. And Jean got a phone call from the Washington office who do the placements, and the lady said, well, have you thought about Fiji? And Jean said, I haven't thought about Fiji at all.
I've never thought about Fiji.
And we were being considered for a placement there. And when the phone conversation ended, Jean went up the street to the travel bookstore, got the Fiji guidebook, and it was on the table when I came home. And I said, what is this? Oh, it's Fiji. You're interested in Fiji? So I think we stayed up till 2 o'clock reading everything in the guidebook.
I spent a lot of time running around, getting forms here, getting forms there. All of a sudden I couldn't find my divorce papers, and they wanted proof that I had a divorce, that I was truly divorced. So I had to call San Francisco, and it just so happened that I spoke to a nice county clerk up there who helped me, trace my dissolution of marriage. I said, oh my goodness, what if I'm not divorced? I'll die.
If you have a medical condition, the Peace Corps has to accommodate that and can't send you someplace that they cannot accommodate a medical condition. So for me, I didn't think it was going to be any problem, but I had an allergy to sulfa drugs. So I couldn't go to any place that had malaria. So the choices of places the Peace Corps could send us was narrowed greatly.
One part of the application process that took a long time was the medical process. And that's a very lengthy process, and I think a lot of applicants give up at that time. They don't realize that this is really representative of what you're going to be going through as a trainee and as a volunteer, as at Perseverance. You just have to keep on plodding along and filling out all those government forms and whatever.
Health is a major hurdle because you have to prove that you are in perfect condition. You have to have no cavities in your teeth. My dentist became so frustrated with me because I had no cavities according to him, but he said, oh, those fellas in Washington, that's all they have to do is time to sit around and look at those x-rays we send them. And they even found one little itty bitty cavity that he had to go back and re-drill and fill.
And I'd had breast cancer 12 years ago, and my surgeon was very supportive and very enthusiastic. And he'd always wanted to do something like Doctors Without Borders, that kind of thing, some volunteer kind of work himself. So he said, go for it, Jean, but you need to have a mammogram every year. So I had to go someplace that had mammography. And not too many developing countries in the world have access to mammography.
Mm-hmm. I'd had some skin problems. I had a small basal cell carcinoma removed. I had to have a letter from that doctor stating that there was not going to be an impairment for me to serve in the Peace Corps. So they jump you through some pretty good hoops there. And for liability reasons, I can see why.
Yeah, there were times in the process that we were ready to tear our hair out. We'd say, oh, Washington needs this, Washington needs that. Our neighbors were thinking, do you really want to do this? But we persevered. I think we're stubborn enough, and we were committed and dedicated enough to stick it out and wade through the paperwork and wade through being told where we couldn't go because we just felt that maybe there was some place that we could go.
My friends and family were, everybody was just a little bit different. My sisters were all gung-ho for me to go. Also my little brother, he thought it was a good idea. My son was not real pleased about it. He thought that I should stay, and because I had a very successful business going, and he thought that I should stay and maintain the business. And my daughter was very much anxious that I should go. She said she seemed to think that was a good idea. My son at the time was just finishing law school. My daughter had just graduated from college and gotten married. So I felt that I was kind of like freed up from fatherhood at last.